What's up, and welcome to a special bonus mini episode of Locked On Lakers. The Lakers have been a pretty mid defense until the fourth quarter, and especially clutch time when they become somewhere between very good and absolutely elite. What is happening? JJ Redick and DeAndre Ayton offered some thoughts during Tuesday's practice. That is coming up next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thanks for making Locked On Lakers your first listen every day of the week, Monday through Friday, whether you are subscribing to the audio or you are part of a community of nearly 38,000 Lakers fans on YouTube interacting with each other in the comments section, leaving us thoughts that we often implement into the show. Whether you are listening, whether you are watching, whether you are preferably doing both, thank you very much. And as always, make sure you are subscribing so you never miss shows like, in particular, this one that was kind of impromptu. And Brian and I, during Wednesday's full show, spent a lot of the time talking about Rich Paul's comments about the Lakers and LeBron on his new podcast, Game Over, with Max Kellerman. But as part of the rundown, I had mentioned that JJ Redick and DeAndre Ayton, I asked them some thoughts about the Lakers' fourth quarter and clutch time defense, which has been very, very good this season, and a big part of the reason that the Lakers are 8-0 in clutch time games this season per the NBA stats. Clutch time is defined as the final 5 minutes of the fourth quarter or overtime when the score is 5 points or less. So really, when it starts getting down to the nitty-gritty and the stakes are the highest in the fourth quarter, that's actually when the Lakers' defense has been really consistently, and one could say out of character, successful to reset the stage for some of these stats. To put this in perspective, the Lakers have the number one clutch time defensive rating, 85.7. For those who don't know, lower the better for defensive rating. 85.7 is amazing. That's like Bad Boys Pistons era defense. It is, the last time I checked 48 hours ago, nearly 10 points better than the Thunder. It is a big reason that their net rating in clutch time is almost 27, which is, at last check, third only behind the Thunder and the Pistons. They have the number one clutch time defense for opponent field goal percentage, the number one clutch time defense for effective field goal percentage for opponents, and the fourth best opponent three-point percentage in clutch time. The Lakers have just been completely different. Everybody who's played at least 3 clutch time games for the Lakers has a defensive rating insofar as the rotation guys who've played at least 3 clutch time games has a defensive rating of 92.6 or better. That's Luka, LeBron, Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, Marcus Smart, DeAndre Ayton, Jake LaRavia. No Laker in the rotation has played in all 8 of these clutch time games. The most have been either Jake LaRavia or Rui Hachimura with 7, followed by Austin Reeves and DeAndre Ayton at 6. In other words, this has been something where it's not just the stars of the team carrying them through it. Luka and LeBron have actually played the least of these. So this is something that is taking over for the entire Lakers defense in the fourth quarter. Their fourth quarter defensive rating is, last I checked, 111.2, 11th in the league, 5 points better than their overall defensive rating. So in other words, this is something that is beginning in the fourth quarter. And as the fourth quarter progresses, particularly in these games that are close, the Lakers have been just exceptional defending. And of their 8 clutch time wins, 6 of them I consider to be quality or at least solid. Timberwolves, the Grizzlies, before the bottom fell out for them and all the chaos ensued. Portland was on the second end of a back-to-back on the road without Luka, LeBron, or Austin. The Spurs, the Raptors, and the Sixers. Those are all somewhere between solid to quality clutch time wins. And thought it was appropriate to re-explore this with, again, one of those wins being the Spurs, and that being tonight's opponent in the quarterfinals. So I asked JJ Redick to begin during Tuesday's practice about this, and I found our I found our exchange very entertaining, but also giving some glimpses of how JJ feels about this, even if he didn't want to share everything on his mind, as you will see. Apologies in advance for whatever reason the video transfer was not as sharp as it is on the iPhone that I use to film all this. I have no idea why, but nothing I can do about it. But anyway, this is the first part of my exchange with JJ Redick.
Your guys' fourth quarter defensive metrics are very good, and clutch time defensive are outstanding. Is there something in particular that's working for you guys in that fourth quarter defensively, or without giving away too much? Obviously, I can see what you're thinking.
You'd be surprised at what I just thought. Not going to share.
Well,
what
I was going to say,
I'm not going to share what I just thought.
Reveal the surprise.
It's a good question, and I'd probably, every game is so different. Again, we played, I think it's 23 games, and 8 of those have been clutch. So it's you're picking and choosing sort of singular things. You'd have to go back and sort of look. I know as the game progressed in Philadelphia, our physicality. And we had teach tape physicality off the ball. And it was a number of guys. It was AR, it was Rui, it was Jake. I've mentioned DA, his defense in the second half, was so much better. There's an angle pick and roll in the first half where he calls ice and he stands with Embiid as Maxey just drives because AR changes his foot angle. Maxey just drives in for a layup. Second half, it was night and day in terms of his pick and roll coverage. He did a good job of playing cat and mouse, not allowing roller behind, not stepping up, forcing tough contested twos when he was in those situations. So, it's different every game. You play a team that's maybe a little bit slower and the game slows down even further. Like we've had some of those games in the fourth quarter. So the defense for us, we just got to continue to try and get marginally better at a bunch of different things. And I wish we had to pinpoint one thing and say we got to get better at this, but it's marginally better at a bunch of different things.
A little bit later, I'll get into some theorizing about what I think JJ might have been thinking and not wanting to share, because a follow-up question I had for him, I think, offered a little bit of insight into that. But in the meantime, DeAndre Ayton was cited as one of the guys really stepping things up in the fourth quarter and down the stretch in the win over the Sixers in Philadelphia. And I asked Ayton if things were different in their fourth quarter defense, or if this was a matter of heightened focus, heightened urgency. Here's what DeAndre had to say.
Yeah, a little bit of both. I think coming out the half, I think first half, sometimes teams get a lot of points. There's 60 points in the half, and we get back to regrouping, regrouping in that halftime break. It tends to kick in at the end of the third, going into the fourth, where we're super locked in and we're changing up coverages on the defensive end like crazy, and we're just interrupting people's offense insanely, just switching on to guards, and we switching on to guards and keeping up with guards, and the coach is trusting that, and we leave it like that. And I think that's a great thing we do, is being versatile on the defensive end, where we can switch 1 through 5 and just give teams different looks.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by Mint Mobile. There is no reason to let big wireless drain your wallet, especially during the holidays. Right now, Mint Mobile is running their best deal of the year. All of their unlimited plans are 50% off. That means you can lock into 3, 6, or even 12 months of unlimited premium wireless for just $15 a month. It's the easiest way to take your overpriced phone bill and give it the full Scrooge treatment. And what makes this even better is how simple Mint makes the switch. There's no contracts, there's no nonsense, just real savings and real quality service. The service is fast, super reliable, even on the go. Don't overpay just to stay connected. Turn your expensive wireless present into a huge wireless savings future by switching to Mint. Shop Mint Unlimited plans at mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. That's mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. Limited time offer, upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, $180 for 12 months. That plan is required. It's the equivalent of $15 a month. Taxes and fees for the initial plan, term only. Greater than 35 gigabytes may slow when the network is busy. Capable devices required. Availability and speed and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com. Locked On Lakers is also brought to you by Game Time. World Cup is coming to North America for the first time since 1994, with 48 teams in there for the first time ever. It's going to be massive, and tickets are going to be difficult to get unless you're using Game Time. The app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. It's going to be a hard ticket if you're not using Game Time. Pick a game, tap a section, you'll have your tickets within minutes. There's no confusion. There's no hunting for any fine print. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, and event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, Game Time. And the question of whether or not this is schematic, and to be totally honest, I would need to go back and take a look at all of these different games to try to see some of the stuff I can pick up on. And frankly, there will be things that I wouldn't be able to notice and probably would need somebody like a player or JJ or somebody who really specializes in film work to pick up all of those nuances. But there is just a question of how much are you dialing into this? Like, how much of this is really just, okay, we recognize time, score, situation, and the urgency is at a heightened level. And we just have to now execute better because we recognize what's going on right now. And I asked JJ just the question of heightened focus, heightened urgency. How much does that lead into this great clutch time performance?
Again, it's why I preach playing hard, and it's why I preach physicality, and it's why I preach the importance of every possession all the time. It's I don't know. I've played on teams that have done that. I certainly have watched teams over the last 20 years that have done that. We're not there yet, and I would say most teams aren't there yet. I think it's the NBA is, philosophically, there's so much that is incredibly different about the NBA right now than even when I played towards the end of my career, and saw some of that evolution. But I know our guys can do it. That's the good thing. I know our guys can do it. That we certainly have some limitations in terms of speed and having multiple point of attack defenders, but we have enough to have a good defense, and we just got to keep getting marginally better.
And this is ultimately, and I recognize I am speculating to some degree, but JJ left me no choice very actively and knowingly but to speculate about the things that he didn't want to say because he simply wouldn't go there. The stuff that he wanted to say, were I to guess, was we could do this more often if we really put our minds to doing this over the course of 48 minutes. We just don't. And I think JJ probably recognizes that there's an element of human nature to this. I think he recognizes, as he acknowledged, this roster is not great defensively on paper. Like, it is not equipped to be, forget the Thunder's level of defense, which is looking like it could be historically good. And they have so many different plus defenders at different positions that they can throw out there over the course of 48 minutes and absolutely choke the life out of opponents. But I feel like JJ, without coming out and saying it, this is a matter of want and will, and how badly do they want to play this level of defense, if not for 48 minutes, for more than 12, and spread out more throughout the course of a game, and especially to start games. We've talked before, the first quarter is often the least effective, least prolific, productive quarter for the Lakers, and it is often not exclusively, but often one of their worst defensive quarters. So they're not often starting out the game playing defense at the level that JJ certainly thinks they're capable of. Is this a formula for playing with fire? We'll see. I mean, to the Lakers' credit, if you think that they are playing this thing in a way that's flying pretty close to the sun, 8-0 is 8-0. And 17-6 thus far is 17-6. They are doing a lot of winning. And maybe the reality is there's only so much of this that they are capable of over the course of 48 minutes. And the formula really is leveraging and maximizing the offense to the highest degree possible, and then cranking up the defense down the stretch and really just executing at the highest level for 12 solid minutes. And they think that that can be good enough. We will see. I mean, I think that's going to be a difficult, consistent formula for competing against the best teams in the league on a consistent basis. Certainly, I think if you end up in a playoff series against the Thunder, against the Nuggets, against the Rockets, you are going to have to play more consistent defense over 48 minutes. I also imagine these guys know that, and they recognize it's December, it's not April. There's a lot of time in between. But regardless, I thought this stuff was really interesting. And after the Rich Paul conversation, which I also thought was interesting, went long, wanted to at least give Laker fans the opportunity to see this and let our Locked On Lakers audience weigh in on these thoughts from JJ Redick. Leave your thoughts in the comments section for the YouTube channel. Again, appreciate everybody being there. And we will return, obviously, after tonight's Cup quarterfinals game against the Spurs. Locked On Lakers, again, available on YouTube, available on audio, everywhere you get your podcasts. And we will see everyone then.